can't be done.
But you realize they were on Main Street on
Yeah.
Saturday.
They're just,
Yeah, and luckily we,
even with 5 cars, I think they're running more crews.
Yeah.
Doing it in complaints, all different locations
Yeah.
around town. So, we'll see.
yeah. But thank you, because it was chaos on Main Street. I mean, it was
On Saturday.
on Saturday, yeah.
So I think I mentioned I'd like to do the report out because I think we only had 3 folks last July. And
Okay.
then Bill wasn't there. And is the better time to do that at the beginning of the discussion?
Yeah.
Before we do open, like, comments?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, are we good? Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Cheney?
Here?
Trustee Foster? Here. Mayor Newhart?
Here.
Trustee Lindberg?
Here.
Trustee McKnight?
Here. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of February 3rd, 2023, and February 21st, 2023?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And authorization to pay a motion for authorization to pay all approved and audited claims in the amount of $232,141.24.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And under correspondence this evening, we only have one piece of correspondence, and that's from the Orange County Department of Health, which is a reminder of the jurisdictional oversight and review, of their jurisdictional oversight and review. And Raina, I was hoping we could make sure that Boris gets a copy and that the planning board members all get copied. The water department gets copied and the wastewater department gets copied. I think it's really important. It's very, very critical information and some things that some of these board members may not be aware of, so.
Not a problem.
Might
Thank-
add to that the village engineer.
Bill, thank you. Okay. And we have one thing, did you want to do this
Yeah.
now? Okay.
Yeah, okay, I can
Yeah.
do it now.
Yeah.
I had requested to add a discussion item tonight related to 2 motions that are on the agenda. So last year, Trustee McKnight and I had been asked to investigate the concerns around the closure of Bank Street associated with the farmer's market. And I had assembled a report out that was shared with the board back in July. And as this issue is sort of coming back again, and I think that, Trustee Lindberg was not on the board at the time that we did that, I would like to share that report out with some updated information to inform like any discussion.
That's great.
So if we can. So there are actually kind of 3 issues that are identified in this report out. One of them is sort of some of the safety around the parking lot in general, because during the process of sort of investigating the concerns about the closure of Bank Street and the farmer's market, I met with Chief Rader and we talked about some things that could be done about the parking lot. And then we also met with the folks that represent the farmer's market as well as PEX. We had put together a small, sort of I think a working group for discussions. And so I'm going to go through each of the issues. The first one is sort of general signage and safety on Bank Street. The second is the parking concerns and the closure of Bank Street. And then the third issue is, I think, I'm just seeding the conversation for the long-term location and needs of the farmer's market that I think are worth discussing. So there is some dispute over whether Bank Street itself is one way beyond the do not enter signs. And So the paint on the road indicates that it's one way beyond the do not enter signs, and then just to make sure that it's super clear, it, you know, there does need to be some increased signage to make it clear that that is one way. Also, the southeast entrance of Bank Street allows two-way traffic. There's a photo of the arrows there on the left-hand side. But traffic has to turn right into the parking lot. As beyond that area, it's one way. So the arrows make it sort of not clear that that's the direction that folks need to go in. And so what we had discussed, and Chief Rader, please feel free to correct me if I misspeak at all, but that this entrance at the southeast entrance, that should be exit only, and remove the entrance arrow, and then the entryway happens at the northernmost point. So that's a point of discussion. And something to potentially discuss with.
So essentially,
Delville.
one way in and, well,
One way into the parking lot.
one way out.
One way in, one
Yeah.
way out,
Yeah.
for pedestrian safety and for clarity of cars.
Do you want to go through that point by point, or do you want to wait until the end of the presentation?
I think let's wait until the end. Yeah.
Okay. So the recommendation that came out of the report out at the time was that Bank Street is one way. The current southern entrance to Bank Street should be exit only. The current northern entrance is entrance only. There should be increased signage. And then if we need to amend the code, then we should do that. And then I noted here that Warwick PD had previously recommended that Bank Street be pedestrian only. And so I think we should revisit that recommendation.
All the time, at all times.
Yes. I mean, it makes sense that it is structured to carry emergency vehicles, but for general use, that it be pedestrian only. So issue number 2 is whether or not Bank Street should be reopened during the farmer's market, that should not be closed. So that's the question that really we were sent to investigate. So just a little bit of context, the farmer's market has been operating in that same space for 30 years. It has been growing steadily. I have some statistics on that. It operates Sundays and uses the space from 6 to 3 generally. I think in previous years it had been 7 to 2, right, on the approval. And then this year, I know that the request that's on the table is for 6 to 3. There are 2 buildings that are located in the parking lot that house businesses that operate on Sundays. There's the retail business space, which is Peck's Liquor, and also the Realtor that is in, and there's also private parking spaces that are leased in Bob Kerkulik's property. Bank Street is closed while the market is in session, and that prevents use and access to those private parking spaces with businesses. And so that has been that's been a concern. And the recommendation as of previously and as of July, and then we did revisit this recommendation yesterday, is that the recommendation has not changed. That we, that in order for safety reasons, it should remain closed. This is just some visuals of the private parking. That's Peck's parking. And then the second access is adjacent to Bank Street. There is sort of enough width in the one-way area that potentially 2 vehicles could go. One of the potential options that we had explored, that Tom and I had discussed, is whether or not we could block off the road sufficiently if there were some mobile, more heavy-duty barriers. I think the concern about pedestrians remains in any case. And so then just a couple attendance figures about the farmers market. In July of 2019, there were about 18,000. And then as of last year, there were over 45,000 folks. Last year, they struggled to get full attendance due to different entries. And so the numbers look a little bit lower than 2021, which is over 50,000 people. So I'm not sure exactly how many parking spaces we need to confirm for Kerhulik, but PEX has that one spot, 12 to 3 because they open, and then, you know, Kerhulik's it would be assumed to be the entire period of time. And so we did explore options to reopen Bank Street with the orange metal removable barriers. There was the question of whether those barriers could adequately provide safety and protection for pedestrians. And they are movable if a vehicle were to hit them. And also the significant length of the barriers along that roadway provides multiple points of risk, like points of possible failure of separation between pedestrians and vehicles. So there's the risk of, anyway, I don't need to go into it. But, and then I did also check in with Warwick PD to see whether their recommendation to close Bank Street during the farmer's market had changed, and the answer was no, it has not changed. The second option was whether semi-permanent replaceable bollards that could provide a hardier physical separation was feasible, and then it seemed that there would be a lot of capital cost at that point in time. We did look at some quotes, but I think that's something that maybe we could revisit. And then obviously permanent barriers would eliminate use of the parking lot, and so that wasn't explored at all. So so the recommendation that I had from that report out in July, which stands in my mind, is that Bank Street remain closed, but that we explore alternate near-term options for parking to meet the needs of those businesses during farmers market operating hours. But I also think that we should consider exploring long-term solutions, and so I'll talk briefly about that. There are some other pedestrian safety improvement recommendations during events that the chief raised during our meeting that I think we should potentially discuss during like an executive session for health and safety reasons. So there are metered parking spaces at the top of Bank Street. There's 5 metered spots to the left and many to the right. And so what I was hoping to discuss was, you know, as a near-term temporary option, could we dedicate 2 to 3 stops or spots at the top of Bank Street for use by those businesses? And I do understand that enforcement could be challenging, but if we could put some bags over top, and I think that, you know, at the time we had talked about discussing this further with Steve Gaba to see whether there were any issues around doing this. And then the final topic is like the location of the farmers market. You know, is the current location, you know, given the challenges that we have around this parking situation, is it the right location? And so I did meet with Cheryl Rogowski and several other folks with the farmers market to talk about like what are their needs, right, that we might need to consider when thinking about their long-term location, and those are listed here. And we did have a like just visioning hypothetical meeting, on-site meeting, where we looked at 3 other locations, and there was, you know, the idea was here was, okay, the next steps would be for us to like revisit this conversation and advance the discussion as needed. So all that was done here was just possible visioning what might be some potential locations for us to consider. So that's it. I just wanted to make sure, because I knew that these items were on the agenda tonight, that everybody that was making decisions around this were aware of this work that had been done last year and that was privy to the report out. That's it. Would you like to add anything, Chief? Did I get it right?
Before we're good, I'll wait till the counterpoints come.
Okay.
Well, great work you did then, and it still is valid now.
And Trustee McKnight was also.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you, Tom. So I think this brings up a lot of talking points that are important. I I'm in agreement that the safety issues are the paramount thing that we have to observe and look at. And it's not only the number of people that attend the market, but it's also human habits of not being attentive to things around them. People are on their phones, or they're talking to friends, and so, we create an environment of safety, and so we have to behold that environment as much as we possibly can. The thing, though, of course, and the rub is, we have these businesses that, in some ways, suffer because of that, and so it's not a long period of time. I think that's been pointed out. It's 2.5 hours, and the idea of maybe having some auxiliary parking specifically for those businesses is great, I think, but the problem, I think, is making it clear that that's what it is. Just to put a bag which says no parking is not clear to somebody who's looking to go to Peck's Liquor. And if they're driving down Main Street, there's so much going on, I don't know. So that's a kind of challenge, I think, that would present. But I've said a bit. Why doesn't somebody else chime in?
I think, as far as Bank Street, no matter how many signs, or whether they're signs up ground or on the street, it's just a very confusing situation. I don't know if signs will really fix the problem. People going down Bank Street, it's downhill, they're probably going faster than normal. It's a narrow street. It certainly causes a bottleneck when people are making a left-hand turn to go down Bank Street. So my recommendation is to, keep Bank Street closed for sure, during farmers market. I think that's much more important than anything as far as safety is concerned, particularly since it's getting busier and busier. And I remember a number of years ago, Chief, you and I and the mayor at least were talking about closing Bank Street permanently.
We discussed that when the bridge was deemed unsafe for vehicles. And
Yeah.
we were coming up with solutions for the future of the bridge, and that was a suggestion back then, was to make it a pedestrian walkway.
Yeah,
24/7.
yeah. I mean, I would, obviously I don't want to make that decision tonight, but I think we should consider that. It's a perfect pedestrian walkway in the middle of the village. But
The only, I'll just chime in, that my only hesitation is that those little side streets that we have along Main Street are sometimes a safety valve. If you're in traffic and it starts backing up, you have the capability of taking a right on Welling or a left on Bank Street, or, so that you are just not stuck there, which that can happen. So it is, it's all about traffic flow as well. So it's safety, but also moving traffic so that it is safe as well. And so that's what we have to weigh, I think, for that type of permanent situation.
As far as the spots on Main Street, I thought they were focused more on employee parking and the tenant parking that Karulik has. Those needs would take up all three of those spaces, I would think.
Yeah,
If not more, so, I don't, so as far as the confusion aspect, I would imagine that the spots will be filled by those individuals.
Right. But I believe that when folks came to us with concerns about closing the street down, Ms. Wansor was concerned about that she has clients that need to come to her on that day, and then that's where her parking needs are,
Yeah.
so.
That's
But she
what I
doesn't
was
currently
thinking
have
of.
parking.
What's that?
She doesn't currently have parking for her clients.
Maybe they would, I don't know.
I think that's I think that is an important discussion, because definitely didn't have time to run that down between the agenda being released and
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
And the only other thing I'd point out relative to the entrances and making them one-way is that you're basically making it very inconvenient for someone to park in that first row. You're gonna have to come in at the upper point, go all the way around the second row, and come back in the first row if you eliminate the entrance at the south end entrance exit as it currently exists.
Yeah, I think,
So, I wouldn't be in favor of that. I don't think that it's a major safety hazard, and I think that with signage and painting on the, pavement, that you can pretty clearly direct people as to them only being able to come in there, make that right turn to the first aisle, and then if there's nothing in the first aisle available, then swing around.
But don't people who use Mr. Krulik's parking lot use that
Then-
as a
then-
two-way?
Then that would be against the law. If we enacted it that way, they would then have to swing around and enter it by coming across Bank Street from the parking lot. And yeah, they're gonna probably have to, head a little bit towards Main Street to do that, as I recall the alignment.
I can pull up an aerial while we're chatting.
There we go.
I think what's a little confusing too, Barry, if you look at the pictures where you come in off of South Street on that south end, like the crosswalk runs right through the middle of it as well, through the entrance.
That's right at South Street, the sidewalk, where the sidewalk
Yeah, and it
meets.
continues into the parking lot.
Right there.
Yeah, so they could still, so the idea is that this would be exit, this would be entrance. They could go like this into
Right.
the parking lot. They're just crossing this, they're not going, they're
I mean,
crossing
it's
it.
a little bit of it's not a straight cross, it's a little bit of
A
an
little
angle, but
diagonal, yeah.
And maybe that
And then go like
crosswalk
this.
needs to get moved, maybe the crosswalk
And
needs to be
that's some
along.
of the side discussions that we had, because it really does, when you look at it from like the Chase parking lot side, it comes right across South Street into the vehicle entrance, and then up towards the top of Bank,
Yeah.
towards Peck's and then up.
I mean, it really probably, to make it, not that we're going out of our way to make it vehicle friendly, but if that crosswalk was at a 90-degree angle to the South Street sidewalk, then people would go from the parking lot to a sidewalk and then go from there, and it'd be a straight shot, it'd be shorter, they'd be in the crosswalk less time.
Yeah.
And Barry, I see what you mean, because obviously the cars are parked in,
They're angled,
at an angle at that direction, and so if you were to come in from the northern entrance and try to park there, it would be,
You have to go to
You
the
go
second
around.
row
Right.
and swing
Yeah.
around.
yeah, it would be very hard.
Yeah, you just have to go around like this, and that's where you pull
Yeah.
in.
But just in looking at the crosswalk, from an aerial view right now, it seems like that could be improved significantly. One, by going at a right angle to South Street from
To the
where you're
sidewalk.
crossing to the South Street, to the sidewalk. And then bringing it down and having a crosswalk across the entrance to the parking lot, and then bringing it on the railroad track side of the parking lot, which would, keep people from having to cross in front of traffic.
Does it, should we have like a working session on that specific issue, or what do you think? Or should, what do you think the next steps are in sorting that out?
I mean, I don't believe it's anything that's in the code, so it doesn't, I guess, require board action, because
No.
it's part of the parking lot. I mean, we may want to codify the crossing at South Street to make that be.
It just looks like
Basically
it
perpendicular.
continues right through the center.
It does, yeah, of the driveway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the crosswalk is inside
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's almost a path.
It basically is a
Designated
path,
path.
yeah.
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 And part of the issue, of course, is, especially on the morning of Farmers Market, is just the amount of pedestrians we have that are parking in the Chase lot and that are coming across the street. And I'm pretty sure that they ended the crosswalk at that point because there is no curb. Because otherwise, they'd have to create a handicap accessible curb. Yeah. So I'm just thinking that that was the reasoning.
Well, it was part of our safety plan years ago to put that crosswalk in along with that fence along the railroad,
Right.
just to kind
The
of
fence is
corral the
effective.
people.
But to keep them away from the tracks.
Yeah.
Well, to keep people from walking across the tracks
Right.
anywhere and everywhere for 40 or 50 feet and
Mhm.
interacting with vehicles.
Right.
So this channels them to one spot where the crosswalk is.
That was also the concern and why we kept our recommendation to keep Bank Street closed for the farmer's market, is if people are following that path, then one-way vehicle traffic coming through there presents a hazard just to the pedestrians there, never mind what we're talking about with any type of barrier between
Right.
the end of the farmer's market and that street.
So, Tom, do you have any words of,
I think the configuration's mostly fine. I mean, maybe we look at the right angle and make it a shorter crosswalk, because it's kind of a long time for some folks to cross. I do think about the parking needs for 3 businesses that have the front of their business on Bank Street. So that kind of concerns me about closing the street for good. But during the farmer's market, I mean, Carly, you brought up bollards. I mean, I think it's especially since it's budget season, it's really worth taking a closer look at. Because those orange gates, I mean, a car can move those easily.
Oh, yeah.
Right, by running into them.
I think even, so, even with like bollards that would be much more difficult to move, I think the safety concerns remain, because with 50,000 people visiting that area, like in a season, and I don't know what that works out to each week, because it's just one day a week for a season. That's a lot of people, and they're not, like, people are in the street and people are coming downhill. I just, to me, it's not worth this,
Right.
the risk.
Right.
would it be worth to find, I mean, to like have fresh eyes, look at the whole thing? Like a traffic engineer, who that's what they do. They look at, parking and parking lots and pedestrian movement and vehicular movement. I mean, is that worth, I mean, it's such an important space. And, I mean, it was configured like that for cars. And it has luckily worked out beautifully to be a multi-use space. But maybe it has, as we've grown, then there's another way of containing it and moving, or, and marking it so that it works for both. I don't know. I'm just, thinking out loud.
Yeah, possibly for the long term, whether to close it or open it, I would think. But I think the safety of farmer's market, determines that we should close the Bank Street. A lot of local people obviously come, but then a lot of people from out of town come, so there's confusion there. But I think the safety overrides everything for farmer's market day
In the near term, yeah.
in the near term.
Yeah, oh, I agree, yeah. No, I wasn't suggesting that we would change that at all, but just that
Long term.
how the demarcations of it, I mean, even the plantings at this point, they're aging out, and, maybe it's time for
It to look different.
it to look different. It's a refresh, for a very important spot. So, but,
I zoomed out because I think there are, I think that could be the case for a couple like spots like that,
Yeah.
like whether we can maximize this area,
Yeah.
yeah. In terms of like the signage or arrows painting stuff, like would it make sense for one or two of us trustees to work with the chief and Mike for a near-term solution, just in terms of like clarity around signage for this season? And then bring that, bring the recommended approach to the
Yeah.
board, and then
I think-
that can be repainted in the spring.
I think that would be more efficient than having a work session and just kind of continuing to hash it out.
Yeah.
I would love if you and Tom could work together, continue, because you are now kind of intimately involved with
Yeah,
this
yeah,
parking lot.
that works, and then,
And then, the season starts in May, so it gives us a little time to get our act together, potentially.
Do we need anything in the code for a do not enter sign or another one?
I'm looking at Barry.
Yeah, I think we'd have to probably
Yeah.
extend the one-way designation for Bank Street, additional footage, whatever it comes out to.
Do you know where it stops?
I think it stops at the bridge at this point,
Oh,
at the end of the
yeah,
bridge. I
there's-
believe that's where the one-way signs, one-way do not enter signs are, right at the end of the bridge, right at the.
so if you extended
east
it
end of the bridge.
past the buildings, that could take months in public hearings and.
But there might
then
be
if Bank
some,
Street's closed during
Yeah.
that period of time, that's the important thing, the Bank Street will be closed, so this is just for the other hours and times to get a little more, I guess, clarity and, just a safer situation all around.
yeah, there's the do not enter signs, and then there's an arrow that makes it look like it's one way right now.
right.
but
And
then
that,
this
and
part
that arrow
confusing.
is essentially, I think, for people who come out of the parking lot, so they don't take a right and go up Bank Street, so,
Yeah, it's this little guy that causes confusion.
yeah,
And they're little guys, yeah.
okay.
Yep, and then I guess, so then that means I think that we'll also continue to work together to explore like issue number 3 and work with the farmer's market and work with others on whether or not that is something to consider long-term, is whether there's a location that
I mean,
makes more sense.
what about, for the tenants, that there would be parking in the Chase lot, that there would be cordoned off, however many spots?
I know the concern with the Realtor was the trekking with boxes. She had brought to the meeting the carrying of boxes, and that is hard during that period. Do you remember that?
I don't.
So so obviously we should revisit their parking needs and move forward, trying to develop a work with them to figure out something that will work for them
Okay.
during those hours. Okay,
Okay. Well, I think we have a direction.
yeah,
And Carly, thank you for bringing it all back. It's really great. It was great work that you did, and it really, I think, helps us as we move forward, so. And thank you, Tom, as well. So the other topic under discussion is Orange County Compost Pilot Program. And Barry, I'm going to ask you if you would give the board kind of a sense of what, so myself and Barry and Mike Mosier met at the local farm, which is offered to do this pilot program, and it's in the town. It's right next to the town park, but I'll let you add to that.
Yes, so last year, Sustainable Warwick, a group from within that organization, embarked on a project to collect food scraps, table wastes from individual homes to bring to the farmer's market, leave there, and then it was transported by those volunteers out to the farm, which is out on Union Corners, next to the, as the mayor said, next to the town park. The program was very healthily received. A lot of people started, it built over time, but it was getting to the point near the end of the farmer's market where, you know, there was quite a bit of material. I think they were trying to collect it in like 5-gallon pails, and so, you know, getting the pails into the number of pails that they ended up needing, and then getting them out there became a little more difficult than the 2 or 3 pails that they were starting out with. And I believe some of the restaurants got involved and were bringing their kitchen waste as well. The feeling is that over time it's only going to continue to expand. So the idea that it's not very efficient to be able to transport using 5-gallon buckets, and so the ask basically was to the village and also to the town, is there some way that we can work out so that the transport of that can be done by village or town crews, especially to be able to accommodate the expected growth. So that's pretty much where it stands now. The farmer's market's going to be opening in May. The desire is to, you know, allow it to continue and allow it to grow with the support of the village and the town. So that's basically what I think we need to discuss and you know, come to some agreement as to what kind of support we might be able to give. And you know, certainly if we've got a situation where the material is going to stay overnight, awaiting the DPW's normal hours on Monday morning, that, you know, you're going to have pretty secure containers, you know, raccoon-proof, bear-proof, people-proof, vandal-proof. So, you know, that needs to certainly be looked into, and, you know, to support it. And the county recycling coordinator, Erwin Silkovic, has been very helpful. He attended the meeting that we had out at the farm, reviewed the farmer's operation. He does a mix of leaves and this waste, turns it over every once in a while. I mean, it wasn't a huge pile, probably maybe 2/3 the size, 3/4 the size of this table,
Right.
and maybe 4 feet high, 5 feet high.
Yeah, I was
Over
expecting
the course of the season, yeah.
much larger.
But again, with the growth of the program and the desire also to make it a year-round program, not just during farmers market season, but find a way possibly to be able to make it accessible beyond those times, or, you know, even accessible at times other than the farmers market during the farmers market season. So,
Right.
a lot's on the table. I think that it's something that needs to be taken in graduated steps
Right.
as it grows, and we just need to be prepared for the eventuality of the growth.
Mike Mosher was pretty positive in terms of
It's not gonna be a big commitment.
a
of
big
resources.
commitment, no, not really, so.
So there's the cost of appropriate sized bins.
Not for us, I think that would be through Sustainable Warwick, that they would,
Well, I guess we'd have to see
Yeah.
what the costs were, because it's, and I'm not even sure at this point what options are out there.
right,
Right, so that, there's a cost to someone for
Right.
the bins,
Right.
then there's a cost to transport,
Right.
right? Is it, taking that in reverse, is the thought from Mike that it's not a challenge to take these bins to the town park and dispose of them during business hours, is that?
Yeah, he didn't seem to feel that was a significant diversion of resources. You know, it's probably gonna be maybe two guys, and maybe it'll take them an hour and a half, if that.
if that, yeah.
Is the idea that, like, regular folks can go get compost for the gardens?
At this point, I don't believe that's been determined, but the thoughts that were expressed were that, yeah, maybe there's going to be an opportunity to either bag it up.
Bag it, yeah.
Or, somehow provide access to allow it. I don't know, I don't recall what the farmer's position was. I would think that it would be probably not in his best interest to have, somebody show up with a shovel and a pickup truck and wanna pick up compost and take home.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, one of the other options might be if it was good cured compost, is just to add it to our compost availability in Memorial Park
Right,
Yeah.
by the DPW. So,
right. Which is used by, village and town residents, so,
Right.
That makes sense.
yeah.
I mean, because we already have that, so it's a mechanism. like maybe
And we
it's-
don't, I mean, what that compost is manure, leaves and some
Some of the
tree
mulch,
millings,
yeah,
mulch,
tree-
yeah.
What, the brush pile you're referring to?
No,
There's a compost.
there's a compost,
The two bins.
the
that
two
are-
bins.
That are outside the fence.
And do we compost those on site?
Yes.
Okay, so this could just be adding to them.
Yeah.
So that would cut down from a cost of driving,
Well,
20 miles.
The idea of it doing what it's supposed to do, not on site, might be better for us, only because there will be regulations that come down, and there's certain waterways near it. I mean, the minute you bring food scraps into the mix,
Yes.
it kind of changes the whole dynamic, especially in terms of legal and,
If you're doing that, DEC has two levels of oversight. One is determining it's a regulated facility, which is the lesser amount of oversight, and then the other, based, I believe, primarily on size, is a permitted facility. And both of those carry with it requirements that have to be met. The permitted facility, much greater requirements.
Would we, if we went with the town park, would we keep them both open, the village and the town compost piles?
the one out in the town is not,
It's on private.
it's on private property.
It's next to.
It would not be open at this point.
So the actual composting would occur out there. Once there was finished composted product, the village would then take it and could take it and bring it back to the village's setup at Memorial Park by the DPW.
But that remains to be seen. That's why it's a pilot. It's, there's definitely a learning curve as to trying to figure out what's the best way. The desire is, to use this incredible resource of food scraps that is created by the community, and then to bring it, into a composting situation. But then the final product, I think that still remains to be seen. Like, how do you deal with it, whether you bag it, or you combine it, or you create a pickup site for the public, not on private property, maybe at the town park too, so. I see Jeffrey Howard is in the audience, and Jeff, do you want to speak to the board a bit about this at all,
Well, I
or?
think you've said it very well. This was an idea that just kind of started last farmer's market season, and we were pleased and surprised, in a sense, that it just took off, and we said this could keep going. Keep going in terms of there'll be more people that come every Sunday, but it doesn't have to be limited to one day a week for 6 months. The number of people who have compostable material that they can't do anything with where they live, they're in an apartment or whatever, they're very happy to bring it, and we went from 2 5-gallon buckets a week to, I don't know what the final number was, 20 some odd. And it'll grow. So the county is behind this. We think that there's opportunity for the town to get involved, but we are looking to you to take the lead, and you've said it very well. There's a learning curve, and we will work with you on that learning curve. Anyway,
That's good,
thank you.
yeah.
I think it's a great idea because, we're diverting food from the we're diverting stuff from the landfill. There's also a lot of opportunity and uses for compost. And long-term, I think the sooner that we start working on it, the more we learn, and not that we'll ever get to this volume, but I had a meeting today and we were talking about thermal energy production from municipal composting.
There you go.
So not that we'll ever, produce that much, but, there's all kinds of, anyway.
That's 2027.
So, I believe that we're committed, and so it remains to be seen, the bin is an issue, what are the bins? And they have, as Barry pointed out, they have to be animal proof and maybe human proof, and where would they be so that they could be picked up and transported? Those are all details I think we're just gonna have to
Yeah.
continue to work out. But I think that, based on the response from the board, I think that we're in.
That's great, and if there's kind of a working committee to, bins, what does that mean?
Right,
What kinds are available, the cost factor, all of that, we will be happy to work with you.
okay,
Thank you.
okay, good. Okay. So, we'll move on to privilege of the floor, since we did that for you. Anybody would like to speak to the board this evening? Hi, Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl Legowski. I just really want to say thank you for all the support you've given us. And we, in regard to the earlier conversation, we're not looking to hurt anyone in the area. We are truly looking at things from a safety thing. And since I took over the management of the market in the last 2 years, we jumped from, what were the numbers I gave you earlier, 17,000 to 50,000+ in the 3 years that I had been in charge of the market. And thankfully, my crew still has confidence in me, and I'm chairperson again. And I did give some bad information out, that the 2023 was our 30th anniversary. I went to the library and they did tons of research for us, and it's actually 2024 in July is when we really opened. 23 is when all the legwork was done
Oh,
by
yeah, of course.
the village board and everything else, and I hadn't gotten through all that layers of information. So, knowing that we could hit 50,000 without a massive celebration like this, who knows what's down the road. So, and we're hoping to involve the community in that at large. and just make it a celebration of what this community is. I can't tell you how many people come to me and thanking the community at large for this awesome village, this awesome town, and truly supporting and recognizing what our agricultural community means to all of us.
Yeah.
And the composting is an example of that.
Yeah.
The people were just so receptive to that, vendors, consumers, and we've been getting asked, where can we go once the market closes? What do we do? How do we keep this program going? So to know that they've got this kind of support throughout the community is just tremendous. So again, thank you for everything you do for all of us.
Thank you.
Let me just ask a question of you,
Yes, sir.
Cheryl. The farmer's market has grown wonderfully, and it's this wonderful Warwick tradition and amenity. If you look forward X number of years, is that South Street parking lot going to get to be a constraint?
Anything's possible.
The reason I'm asking is because one of the things you talked about in terms of Bank Street was maybe there's a better place.
Right.
for the
We,
farmers
and we have, we've had that discussion,
Yeah, Carly
actually.
and Tom
Yeah.
and I and I'm sorry.
Chief Rader.
I'm gonna get you upset again with me.
No, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, no,
you know, I love the idea of the farmer's market on South Street, because every Sunday it's where I do, it's what I do. But if it was someplace else that would work better,
well, I mean, we are at the heart of the
anyway, just
village.
throw
Right.
that out there.
We are at the heart of the village physically, location-wise,
Right.
and the other commitments that we've made. So it is an ongoing discussion that needs to be had.
And
I mean,
looking at the map that you had up there, I thought, could you flip the two and have the market in the banks, in the Chase parking lot, and parking in the South Street parking lot?
I don't know how far you want me to get into this
I don't
conversation.
know.
No,
Just-
no, but that has been a talking point,
Okay.
Jeffrey, so definitely. But the one, I just want to add just to the nuances of what we're talking about, and I don't really want to get into it deeply, but I think that our little committee with working with the market and with Chief will kind of flesh it out a little bit more. But the important thing, and the reason why the market is what it is today, is the relationship it has with the downtown. And I think I've pointed out in the past that before the market happened and kind of brought its magic to our downtown, I would say 80% of the stores were closed on Sundays. So it is a tourism catalyst, as well as it brings food into pretty much a desert, a food desert, except for restaurants. So,
Folks will come to us asking, who's your favorite place, where's your favorite place to eat, where can we go?
Right.
And they ask about apple picking, they ask about taking picturesque photos on farms. So we become the information center for the region on that day.
Really one of the very best things that's ever happened. And the idea that it began in 1994,
Yeah,
I mean, in 1993 it didn't exist.
right.
I mean, it's amazing.
okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on. And we'll move on to motions.
Motion to approve a meter purchase from Corin, Maine in the amount of $37,543.88 for the Village of Warwick Water Department per the recommendation of Water Distribution Supervisor Christopher Bennett. Funds are appropriated in budget code F-8340-4500.
Second.
And Carly had a question that she sent to me, and it was about the bidding process for something, this large purchase. I explained to her, this was kind of a singular,
Right, this is, it was predetermined by previous village board that we would, and for the purposes of having a single system and being able to manage that system, we have to standardize on one particular manufacturer. And as they improve their metering systems, we generally move forward with those. So it's pretty much a sole source, and because the manufacturer franchises with sales companies, they are given regions, so we only have one to go to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to see the purchasing sheet here, but that probably something that needs to be put on the sheet, that this is our single source, or,
I'm sorry, but I thought it was.
yeah.
It has the one
It
listed.
says vendor select, yeah. It says this is the village meter vendor, but
Yeah,
I
I think-
I had the
so-
same question
I
as
think
Charlie.
it should be a little bit
Different.
different, yeah, I think a little bit more of an explanation of why, yeah. Then we can do that.
But thank you, Chris, for using the sheet.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the purchase of 60 stores nozzles from Corin, Maine for the ongoing installation of fire hydrants in the amount of $12,729 for the Village of Warwick Water Department. Per the recommendation of Water Distribution Supervisor Christopher Bennett, funds are appropriated in Budget Code F-8340-4650.
Second.
Discussion on that?
Yeah.
First of all, it gave me a chance to look up stores nozzles.
Good?
Why do we need 60 of them? Are we updating?
We have been over the years in a process of adding about 60 a year to
Okay.
our 350 approximately
Yeah, yeah.
hydrants that we have. And so this is basically a quick connect device that doesn't require that you stand there and line up the hose and twist the hose on. It's just, you just pop it and basically you're ready to turn the hydrant on. So it saves the fire department time. I believe what Chris said was we're probably 1 or 2 years away from being completely done.
That's great.
And having every hydrant with these adapters.
Very good.
Yeah, it's called a quick connect, basically. So it saves several minutes per hydrant.
And you don't strip any threads.
Right.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And this third motion's being withdrawn.
Right. And Carly?
Yep. Motion to grant permission to the Warwick Valley Chamber of Commerce to hold the Warwick Valley Farmers Market in the South Street parking lot on Sundays from May 14th, 2023 through November 19th, 2023, except for Apple Fest Sunday. The parking lot will be used from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., with the event open to the public from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Permission includes the setup of tables and chairs on Bank Street while it is closed for farmers market customer use. The farmers market is responsible to pay half of the total cost of porta potties and the calculated daily rate for electricity usage on Sundays. Completed facility use permit, proper insurance, and security deposit have been received.
Okay,
Second.
Discussion.
discussion, yeah.
Yeah. I have a question regarding the request to use, to have a setup of tables and chairs on Bank Street while it's closed for customer use on a couple of different levels. And one of them had to do with the way I saw the request made in the application form. There was some confusion about alcohol, and I guess wineries and distilleries are there, and they sell alcohol, but in sealed containers. But then it's noted that alcohol is sold for consumption on-site. I'm not sure that's correct. That maybe should be off-site. So relative to having tables and chairs there, I think, it's a couple of things. One, potential safety issue because people are just sitting there at tables. Secondly, I think that it's somewhat of a disservice to our restaurants to create what I guess I'd call like an outdoor cafe atmosphere. I don't think that's the purpose. There aren't that many vendors that are selling food that people would be able to consume there. So I'm not really in favor of that. And then the overriding, another overriding factor is that with the sale of alcohol in sealed containers and an opportunity to sit down somewhere, who's to say that isn't going to get unsealed? And then we have an issue of the open container ordinance being violated, and then, how's that going to be enforced, and is that in the overall best interest to either having the police or the farmers market there to try and enforce that regulation? Certainly the farmers market would be limited in what they could do to saying, no, you really have to close that, or if the police catch you, you're going to get cited for open container. So I'm having trouble convincing myself that it's a good thing.
I have a concern, and it's mostly about our barriers. I mean, they're not foolproof. And somebody who just is in town and, decides, oh, I have to make this left to go down Bank Street, and bang,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like having people
Might-
set up there they might be sitting ducks.
And they're not going to be, aware of that, and they're not going to be able to be, if they're sitting, not going to be able to be in a position to move quickly.
Right.
So,
And part of it too is that it's more breakdown at the end of the day when we really want to open the street as quickly as possible.
I do think we should consider having like something for, like maybe even just one or two, not maybe in the street, but like maybe set back, because there is like a pizza vendor there, and I know there's a lot of, like there's usually a lot of children like through, I bring my kids to the farmer's market, and it would be nice for some people sit outside of the farmer's market with their dog. It would be nice for somebody to have somewhere to sit. But I understand the argument and concern about alcohol. I think that is cut off. It looks like it's supposed to say isn't.
Well, I think it says
Yeah.
no earlier.
It isn't, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to say isn't.
Oh,
That's right.
Because you can see the N, yeah.
So we're in the middle of really a discussion amongst the board, but is there anything that you want to
Well,
add to?
in regards to that, we only set up like one table with like 6 chairs, I think, around it.
Yeah.
And there's usually not many people who take advantage of that unless somebody's tired of waiting for someone to shop in the market. So if it's an issue, we're okay with taking that out.
where is it
It's-
usually deployed? Where is it set up?
Under the tree.
It's not in the
This
street.
is Bob Kahulik's parking lot, there's a tree over here, and it's usually under that tree, so they've got some shade and protection, because we don't put a tent up, we just put tables and chairs. And it started during the pandemic, when everybody was shut down.
Exactly,
It provided
yes.
a service to
Yeah.
the neighborhood.
Yeah,
And.
and also while the Bank Street was closed down.
Closed down.
It
as
was,
well,
it was,
right.
So again, it's not really utilized very much during the market, from what I've seen, I don't know.
Yeah, there are
you know.
some folks who sit there,
There's a
dogs
few,
aren't
but-
allowed in the market, so they'll sit there with their dogs and enjoy a slice of pizza. And just so you all know, we are governed by New York State Ag and Markets, and New York State Ag and Markets only allows the wineries and distilleries to make sales in closed containers, not for on-site consumption.
Right.
So it sounds like, does the perspective shift if it's not in the street, like it's off, if it's,
I'm not sure from my point of view it does.
It says set us with tables and chairs. Is it, you say there's one table and 6
One
chairs?
table and 6 chairs, yeah.
that doesn't read cafe to me, but if you know what I mean. I mean, it's just a kind of a
More of a convenience.
convenience, yeah.
yeah.
I think that's,
Like, if you have like grandparents, little kids, they want to be able to sit while
Yeah.
activities are happening. when I'm there in Hello Warwick Valley
Right.
volunteering, like oftentimes I'll go eat, but I don't want to, I go grab some food from one of the restaurants and then I'll try to like sit in a chair, like off to the side, so I'm not in the tent.
Right.
Like, you know, so,
Often there are folks set up, like Warwick Valley Master Gardeners and the Skate Park Initiative, and they're set up actually on Bank Street, right along there.
Yeah.
I think in part, you know, there's less of a potential of a person coming in to Bank Street from South Street because it's really an entrance. I mean, the way you have designated with the tent,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's clearly,
And the market manager's tent
and
is
market
there.
manager's tent is there, exactly.
Right.
But,
And as part of the rules, so you were talking about, you would be responsible for anybody sitting at those tables?
In terms of
Unlawfully drinking?
consumers?
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that's a question for attorneys and insurance agents, I don't know. You know, taking it to that level.
But you're saying there's sealed containers, so if somebody takes the cap off, aren't you responsible for that?
I think it would be open container, and it would be our police department that
Yeah.
would have to enforce that.
Because our vendors are not allowed to sell open containers
Yeah.
for on-site consumption, so.
I don't know that I agree that that's a real risk for one table with chairs. I've never seen anybody crack open a beer at the farmer's market.
For the
But
most
they'll
part, they're
sell.
sitting there with Dunkin' Donut cups of coffee, and, you know, they'll get a pizza from our vendor, or they'll have other food from other retailers on Main Street and Railroad Avenue, whether it's to-go things.
No different than if they were to go around the corner to Railroad Green and
And sit over there.
sit over there.
Correct.
Right. So. I think, again, my concern is anybody that might just inadvertently break the barrier on the top of Bank Street
Yeah.
and come down. Is there a way that setup could be closer to any of the folks that are setting up, you know, like the gardener setup?
We could move it closer that way, yeah, we just took advantage of the tree, so we didn't have to put it to the
I
top,
understand,
you
I
know,
understand.
But we can move it closer so that they're by where the master gardeners are, that's definitely possible.
Yeah,
Because then they're closer in the line of vision too, to keep an eye on what's going on over there.
right. I mean, I don't want to micromanage what you're doing either. I mean, really. So,
But, I mean, if it's a deal breaker, we're okay with, I mean, we
Taking
wanna,
it out,
we'll
yeah.
work with you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it's more of a convenience for those people.
yeah.
But
I
that
mean,
need to sit down.
I hear what Barry
Yeah.
is saying, but I agree. I think it's more of a convenience. It's not many tables, it's not many chairs. It doesn't give a sense of, like, here, sit down and have your lunch. It's really just like, you're tired, have a seat, you know, you have a puppy, you can sit there.
I think I've actually sat there once or twice writing out checks for the health department,
Yeah.
because I didn't wanna have to go sit in my car and do it, you know, but-
I mean, even during the pandemic, I mean, it wasn't like intensely used. It was,
Right, no.
No,
Yeah.
people didn't wanna get that close.
Yeah, right.
So, is the table and chairs actually on Bank Street, or is it off of Bank Street?
On the shoulder, off Bank Street, there's a little grassy area there, so it's there. It might spill over like 2 legs into the pavement, because it is a rectangle.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird shape. but,
Yeah,
But for the most part, it's off the street.
yeah, there's a little grassy area there on the shoulder.
Sensing the sentiment of the board.
You're gonna,
I guess I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion to where it talks about permission to include the setup. Permission includes the setup of one table, a maximum of 1 table and 6 chairs in the grassy area along Bank Street, along the south side of Bank Street. while it is closed for farmer's market customer use.
Beautiful.
Second is amended.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, onward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the area.
Thank you for what you guys do and what you bring to the community. Number 5. Yep.
Oh, me again?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry. Motion to close Bank Street for the benefit of the Warwick Valley Farmers Market on Sundays from May 14, 2023 through November 19th, 2023 from 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to grant permission to the Warwick Valley Rotary Club to hang a total of 121 Celebrating Our Heroes utility pole banners within the village of Warwick to honor local heroes from May 22nd, 2023 through August 21st, 2023, and authorize the mayor to sign the Orange and Rockland Utilities Incorporated Temporary Attachment Permit Agreement. Village of Warwick DPW to install a maximum of 88 banners along Oakland Avenue, Main Street, and Maple Avenue using existing banner brackets and install a maximum of 33 banners along Forester Avenue, including bracket installation. Approval is pending written proof of permission from Orange and Rockland Utilities. Proper insurance has been received.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion. The document there that they refer to, the temporary attachment permit agreement, that we would be authorizing you to sign, has that been reviewed by our attorney?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, I definitely think that, it should be. And just in reading it myself, there were a couple of questions that came to mind. One, what does temporary mean? That's probably the big question, and is signing that document going to require us to remove the brackets when the, and that has not been the case to date, and my expectation is it wouldn't be, but it's, a concern. If we have to take the brackets down,
That is a real
pretty,
concern, yeah. Yeah.
time consuming for the part of our DPW. And then, what's the size of these banners going to be that are going to be added to Forester?
So that's been kind of an issue of concern because we have historically had 20 banners, 20 poles along Main Street, the center of the village. And they are larger than the banners that the Rotary has commissioned, or it does. And so that means moving brackets at any time that these banners are being put up.
Were the banners on Main Street used last year? Or was it just Maple Avenue?
No, they were all used.
They were all used,
Yeah.
so our DPW had to go out and shift
Physically shift.
the brackets.
And
That's.
then shift them back. So to understand that, that there's multiple uses, when anybody has come to the village, we've given them specific measurements. And I believe that we did ask for this measurement, but it's not what came. So, so now we have this kind of dual sizes going on, and it's growing, as you say, so.
I mean, I don't like the idea of us having to use our DPW resources to move the brackets every year. I think we need to try and work with the Rotary to get them to standardize going forward relative to the size that we require. And then, do our best to try and accommodate the banners that they've already provided. Feedback I got were the banners were too small to begin with, that it was, really difficult to be able to read the names and see the pictures as you're driving by on Maple Avenue. So I would think that everyone would, probably benefit from standardization of the size of the banners.
So certainly Forester should be the correct size bracket.
I would think
Yeah.
for going forward that we should,
And the
Required.
20 on Main Street should start with that as well, so.
right,
So, we have this motion, we can, if we want to have that conversation with the Rotary, I think that would be the next step.
Like withdraw the motion and.
Withdraw the motion and then have a conversation. I did speak with Joyce, and she was very excited about the idea of doing Forrester. And we did talk about the discrepancy in, I knew that it would be brought before the board, and that would be a point of discussion, so I think we need to bring it back.
well, I guess I'll just throw this out as a possibility, but amend it so that they're required to do it in accordance with the village requirements. That this approval is that the 33 new ones need to be installed in accordance with
The size of the brackets that are.
the village's requirements for brackets.
Yeah.
How were those
But
requirements
it
communicated?
just brings up a lot of things, and I think to say that's what they have to do, I think there has to be a discussion.
Fine.
And the reason why I say that is they're more expensive, and so they have this program, and not that I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I just want them to be on the same page with us and to figure out how we would evolve so that all would be the same.
My only thinking was that if we were to approve it with that condition, it would then allow them, if they're in agreement with that, to proceed. If they're not in agreement with that, come back and we could rescind the motion. But I'm sure they're anxious to
get going.
get the program
Yeah.
off the ground.
I have a question. Does this banner request form, does that communicate the physical requirements? Where it says
So,
2 feet wide by 5 feet high?
I'll let Raina
yeah,
chime in.
if you don't mind, so 24 by 60 is the 2 feet wide by 5 feet high for the utility banners. And when the Rotary came before the board, they brought the specifications from the company that they have to use for, or that they're choosing to use for the program. And the banner choices were 24 by 48, which is what is hanging, what they were hanging now, or 30 by 60. So we allowed them to hang the 24 by 48, 88 of those, and then the 20 on Main Street for Village of Warwick, for the Apple Fest and for Apple a Day. Those ones adhere to the 24 by 60. So I think you'd have to have banners regardless that were a bit wider than longer, and I don't know if new brackets are required for that. I just wanted to give you that information. So they can't be exactly, it sounds like, the 24 by 60 that the village requires,
Through that vendor.
through that vendor anyway. Yeah.
I'm fine if it gets withdrawn. I just was offering that to help them if they were willing to agree.
And I guess more to the point, if the banner request form is pretty specific with sizes, maybe it's not a reasonable expectation that anyone who's requesting to put a banner up can find that exact size. I mean, maybe it's more so a range that would fit the brackets as they are, because sending 2 DPW or a laborer and a person with a CDL with a bucket truck, right? You've got a bit of a blended rate there, out for 2 full days to do this work, and then add on top of that any time to just move the back brackets rather than hanging the banners. It just starts to add up, right? So maybe I don't know what vendors are out there, but I mean, do we have, with the bracket positions as they are now, do we have a sense of what size banners those would fit without having to readjust all of them? Like, is 2 by 5 like is that the going?
What are
Size
the
requirements?
sesquicentennial banners? They were 5 feet, right?
2 by 5.
I thought they might be longer. I went home like I thought we measured them when we addressed this last year. They were 24 by 60.
Yeah, it's 2 by
24 by
5.
6 feet.
60.
60.
Yeah,
It's
that's
2
2
by
by
5.
5.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard for banners.
Banners?
And then they have, as far as the brackets are concerned, the Rotary, also the same vendor, they purchased the 24-inch brackets, not the 30-inch brackets for this program. So I think I don't know specifically, but I'm assuming they would have to purchase the 30-inch brackets.
Well, if the banners that we are using, like the sesquicentennial are 24, then we don't need a wider
Right.
bracket per se, as long as they can fit into what we have, you know.
And what size did the Rotary submit for?
The Rotary submitted for, the actual size wasn't in the motion, because I have that motion that was originally
Yeah.
approved. But there was quite a bit of discussion with it, and meetings and emails that went back and forth, and I believe they do say it in some of their communication, and that, but I don't wanna speak to that.
Yeah.
Well, you could get a pretty quick meeting with the Rotary, right, and hash it all out?
I believe we can. We did already once, but I think, not, with the concern of the entire board, I think then it has a little bit more substance.
Did we get prior approval from O&R to hang these? Or is that what you meant by the temporary?
Yeah, I don't know that we've ever been party to this, the temporary attachment permit agreement before. Right, Raina, that didn't come up the last time, did it?
No, we have, and even for the Apple Fest and everything, it's a requirement in Orange and Rockland. Kathy usually does it, but we formalized it in the motion.
Have we used it, have we formalized it in motion before?
Yes,
Has it been in
last
the motion before?
Let me look at last year's. We did complete the document, but let me see.
For this particular,
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, on February 22nd of 2022, the Village Board of Trustees granted permission to the Warp Valley Rotary to hang a maximum of 88 Celebrating Our Heroes utility pole banners along Oakland, Main Street, and Maple with the Village of Warwick to honor local heroes, and authorized the mayor to sign the Orange and Rockland Utilities Temporary Attachment Permit Agreement with the Village of DPW to install the hardware and banners.
Thank you.
okay. Well, I think that we should withdraw this motion, and then I will set up a meeting with Joyce or with representatives from the Rotary. And
And is Steve going to review this, or?
we can have them review it too, yeah.
So if we do, then maybe there's a way that we can have a one-off agreement that kind of persists for this particular use, since it seems to be an annual thing. Rather than paying the village attorney to review this every year, if they update their contract. I don't know if O&R is amenable to that sort of
Any change,
Agreement.
it probably wouldn't be. But if the attorney were to point something out that would be putting us at risk, then there might need to be some sort of a agreement with whoever we're giving permission to relative to them
to assume some.
removing or minimizing that risk on the part of the village.
Okay. So, we can have a,
I make a motion to withdraw the motion.
have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the budget modification request per the village treasurer's memo dated March 1st, 2023.
Second.
Thank you, good night. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to grant permission to village treasurer Sadie Becker to register for 2 online classes, Introduction to Governmental Accounting and Government and Accounting Principles and Procedures, offered by the State of the, oh, no, I'm so sorry. Offered by the Office of the State Comptroller on September 27th and 28th, 2023, and October 18th and 19th, 2023, at a cost of $85 per class. This training is a budgeted item supported from account A1325.4750.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to grant permission to Deputy Treasurer Denise Bolnis to register for 1 online class, Accounting Principles and Procedures, offered by the Office of the State Comptroller on April 19th and 20th, 2023, at a cost of $85 per class. This training is budgeted, supported from account A1325.4750.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to hire Taylor Hall as part of the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 special event staff at a rate of $15 per hour for the Easter egg hunt, per the recommendation of Village of Warwick Recreation Director Ron Intraini.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to appoint Deborah Sadler as an alternate election inspector for the upcoming village election on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, at a rate of $13 per hour.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to renew the Sourcewell State and Local FMV lease agreement with Pitney Bowes for postage meter equipment for a 60-month period billed quarterly at $218.70, and authorize the mayor to sign the same.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to appoint Counsel Jay Myro from Bluestein, Shapiro, Frank, and Barone LLP as attorney to the Village of Warwick Zoning Board of Appeals for the period of March 1st, 2023 to April 3rd, 2023.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to return the planning board escrow balance of $2,114 to Johann Graff for the accessory apartment application for 60 West Street that has been withdrawn. All invoices have been paid as per the email from village engineer Dave Getz and planning board attorney Rob Dickover.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Tom, would you take the number 15 resolution on the addendum?
Resolution authorizing substitution of counsel in litigation. Whereas there is currently pending a lawsuit against the Village of Warwick Zoning Board of Appeals in New York State Supreme Court, Orange County, under the caption of, in the matter of the application of Stephen M. Gross versus Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Warwick et al. And whereas the attorney representing the ZBA in the said litigation is Robert Fink Esquire, and whereas Mr. Fink has asked to withdraw from representing the village in the said litigation for health reasons. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, that the village board of the Village of Warwick hereby authorizes the village's attorneys, Drake Loeb PLLC, to be substituted as counsel for the ZBA in the said litigation at the standard hourly rate under their retainer agreement with the village, and that the mayor is authorized to execute the change of counsel form and any documents necessary to effect the change of counsel.
Second.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Lindberg?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes. And Barry, do you want to take the last two?
Motion to advertise for 1 part-time DPW seasonal laborer to work the brush pile at a rate of $16.50 per hour.
Okay.
Second.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept the proposal for surveying services from John Nelting, land surveyor, for land surveying services for Veterans Memorial Park for a lump sum amount of $14,500, and authorize the mayor to sign such documents as are necessary.
Second.
Discussion, please?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I might have missed this. What is the purpose of this one?
Oh, to create a survey for Veterans Memorial Park, a complete survey.
I
with topographic,
I
yeah.
saw that that document, read through it, is that part of the master park plan?
Yes.
I see.
Yes. It's vital for our landscape architect to create a complete plan, really.
Do we have an existing survey?
We have pieces.
Yeah, and it doesn't cover the north portion, and the existing topographic information is apparently inadequate. And it is, so she can proceed with like the basics of the master plan, but this would have to be done, for us to have like a high quality definitive master plan, and it would also be required for any implementation. So, there's an argument to push it forward now. And we have to get it done before there's a bunch of leaves on the tree. There's a sweet spot of time, this Goldilocks period, between when there's no snow and there's not a lot of leaves to do it.
Got it. Okay, thanks for explaining.
So, is there gonna be wetlands delineation that would also be picked up at this point in time?
Yes.
So who's doing the delineation?
I believe it will be Mr. Nelting.
I don't know that he's qualified, but maybe Karen is and she's gonna.
Or she'll be working with a representative from the DEC.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, she has been working with,
But we are gonna pick that up as part of the survey,
I believe so. I mean.
because it would be a shame to not have it and then have to go out there with a surveyor a second time to do
Yeah,
it.
we should confirm that.
Do we need the Army Corps of Engineers to be part of this?
No.
Probably not, yeah.
Should we check with them?
Usually, it's left up to someone who's qualified to do it. They don't generally come out and do it.
Well, the question is, after this is done and the wetlands are delineated, does that get fed back to the Corps so they can update the national records there?
I don't think there are national, well, those are less specific than what this is gonna provide. So I don't know that, those are more general, it's, high-level aerial photography that they use.
Okay. Reason I ask is because there tend to be questions around the village about wetlands and interference with wetlands. So whatever's the most accurate and official record that we can point back to. I'd assume the Army Corps would need to be involved, but if they don't, can we feed this back to them for documentation for posterity?
We can feed it back to them. I don't know
They're not
that
gonna
they
do
use it.
anything
with it.
Or do anything with it, but.
Good, but aren't they the official record of what's a wetland?
There are
No.
different types of delineated wetlands though, right? There's
Wouldn't the DEC
federally
be-
designated.
Well, there's
and
federal and
there's-
state, but
Yeah.
the federal gets pretty small. And then usually you use those maps to go by, and then you refine it accurately for your particular property, or the property in question.
Got it.
Yeah, based on the survey.
I'll leave that in the hands of whoever does the delineation as to what degree that would be necessary. But
We can find out
Talk to
about
Karen.
that from Karen. I mean, she has
If we could, yeah.
a good good rapport with the DEC. She has a contact there that has come out now, I think twice. So,
And will this have elements of a natural resource inventory for this location? But do they do that?
The
work as
master
part of it?
plan itself will, like,
Yeah.
because, so what we have right now, there is a delineation of the wetlands, there's a delineation, like, there's identified kind of key trees and things like that. So, the basics of that will be in the master plan. You know,
yeah, they wouldn't really have that in a survey per se. No.
Okay.
but we did receive, we have two quotes for the survey, and this was, less expensive and at a higher level of detail in terms of, it's a 1 foot contours instead of 2 feet contours. And there's quite a lot of topographic change within the park.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
It's a really good flag right there.
Do you want to speak to Karen about that? Is she away? I mean, I've been,
She's been on vacation,
oh, okay.
but I thought she was supposed to be back this week.
Yeah, that's a test. I haven't, anyway, final comments from the board. Oh. No, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Go
Come on,
ahead,
Tom.
come on, Tom, come on.
Despite, don't worry about what they say.
The state has asked me not to announce yet, but
Well, this isn't an announcement, it's a pre-announcement.
we did get our certification for the climate smart communities, so it is official.
Fabulous.
So, yeah, that was
Good job.
that was good.
Thank
Yeah.
It
you
was
for
good.
yeah.
We have an official
shepherding
seal, we
Thanks
can
for
put it on the
your leadership on
website.
that.
All that stuff.
We'll make a big party out of it, don't worry. A very sustainable party.
Sustainable partners. Yes, yes.
Anyone else?
We also submitted the raise grant
Oh,
application.
of
Oh, my
course.
goodness.
Yes, my God.
Yeah, so
Yes.
That got submitted.
Which was an incredible amount of work and teamwork, between Carly, Tom, Barry, I think you chimed in somewhere along the line, me a little bit, but HDR, Raina, of course,
Sadie?
Sadie, yeah.
Now, I do want to recognize that Carly did the super majority of
She
this
did,
as the
yes.
grand architect, so seriously, thank you. I know how many hours you put in, well, at least I think I do, and it's probably more than that, but excellent, excellent
Yeah.
stuff.
Very good.
Thank me when we get the grant.
Right, but I mean, it's also something that we can reuse. A lot of thought went into this in planning. It's super well organized.
During a
Right.
future meeting that we are not here after 9, I would love to walk through some of the things. Oh, I think we're gonna have a working meeting about sidewalks?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Okay,
That's-
yeah.
So that would be a great,
Because we could talk about things that, we could be moving forward with and.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Raina also submitted the grant for the
Thank
for
you.
the records.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Yeah.
for
Yes.
can you
And-
describe it's what is it called? It's a big acronym and I can't
Yeah,
remember
it's
it.
the Local Government Records Information Management, something or other, the LGR, I've been saying it for months and
I
now
know.
I can't think of it because I'm tired. But anyway, what it is the village applied for an inventory and planning grant for the clerk and treasurer's office as a pilot program to actually create, well, if we do get the grant, we will have an records management consultant and her team come in and actually inventory the records that my office holds at the offsite vault, as well as here at Village Hall and Sadie's records. And we don't have a structure to our records management program, so many documents just get filed in the office of the clerk, which really shouldn't be. And I also need to have an inventory of those inactive records. So that's going to be created, an inactive record database. We expect to be shredding at least 20% of the records that we have. We've identified 480 cubic feet of records. And then on top of that, we're going to be creating a policies and procedures manual, which should be a working document of exactly how we're supposed to be labeling records at the very inception of them, with the LGS1 records schedule in mind, so that records are uniformly named, because we have a lot of records that are in multiple locations all over the building under different names, so we never really know if we have the complete records. And then on top of that, we're going to have a records management plan, which is going to then tell us how we're going to reach our goals, which would be the digitization of all of our records with an electronic content management system. Eventually. And I'm hoping that we will hire this Gallego Consulting while she's here to write a grant for a much, much larger project, which would be for our DPW, Water Department, and Building and Planning, so that we would have the same project for those offices, again, with the goal to move to electronic content
I mean,
management.
Raina
Nice
single-handedly wrote this
Really
grant on
incredible.
top of everything else she does, so
Yes.
just
She,
awe-inspiring.
yes, and just for the
Thank you.
board to know that
Thank you.
Raina was here beyond her normal workday, just because there was some quiet, that she could focus and concentrate on this grant. And I hope we get it, but boy, what a learning curve for all of us.
Yeah.
And And your hair was straight before you.
That's what I was But you know what was great about writing it and was that I had some wonderful examples. I actually formed a great relationship with our records advisory officer from the state archives who kind of kept drilling it home that we have to start at the source of our paper. Barry helped me write the RFQ, which was fantastic. They call it a request for quotes as parts of the grant as opposed to an RFP. But as a records management officer and never having a groundwork of how I'm supposed to be really managing records and how everyone is supposed to be creating them and maintaining them here in the building, I thoroughly understand it because as part of the grant I had to read all of these publications and prove that I've read them and list them and watch these webinars. So I have a much, even if we don't get the grant, I have a much greater understanding of my role. So
Yeah.
that's a good
And
thing.
480 cubic feet, that's a lot,
It is a lot.
Yeah.
of boxes of records.
Yeah.
Maybe we can
Thank
reuse
you.
all that
Thank you.
shredded
Thank you.
material and pump it into never mind.
Insulate the DPW garage.
Exactly, that's where I was going, but anyway, thank you for your work, and Carly, thank you again. Just to watch these two women like bookends in action over the past month has been pretty incredible. It's your contribution to the village is incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Raina.
So we can adjourn. We have no executive
So
session.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. So Sadie and I were having a conversation about the budget, and she was looking at slide. So, we've got possibility of, we talked about last year, applied for community development money to go from 3rd Street to just past that.
There it is. My clip went flying, Bill.
So, but she was wondering whether
I was
that was
fidgeting, I guess.
included in the raise grant as well, and what would happen if it was or it wasn't. And I said, we keep it in.
Yeah.
If we get